Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today's tale comes from r/nosleep, where reality blurs with the eerie and unexplained. In this story, the narrator grew up under a chilling family rule. It was absolutely forbidden to acknowledge their own mother, no matter what she did or how close she stood to them. But when that rule was finally broken, everything changed, and the truth that came to light was far more haunting than anyone could have expected. So sit back, hit that like button, and let's dive into this strange and unsettling Reddit story. I need to start from the beginning. I need to try and make sense of it for my own sake. For as long as I can remember, my life has been governed by one unbreakable rule. It was never spoken aloud, never written down, never explained. It was a rule learned through punishing silence, through the sharp, warning glances of my father, through a pressure in the atmosphere so thick you could feel it on your skin. The rule was simple. We do not acknowledge her. She was my mother. She lived in the house with us. She was as solid and real as the dining table we sat at every night, or the stairs I climbed to my bedroom. But to my father, and by extension to me, she was a ghost we had agreed not to see. Every morning she would be in the kitchen when I came down for breakfast. She'd be at the stove, a floral apron tied around her waist, and she would turn and smile at me. It was always a sad smile, one that never quite reached her eyes. "Good morning, sweetheart," she would say, her voice soft, like rustling leaves. And every morning, I would look right through her, my gaze fixed on the coffee pot on the counter behind her. I'd grab a bowl from the cupboard, pour my own cereal, and sit at the table. My father would already be there, hidden behind his newspaper, a silent monolith. She would sigh, a tiny, deflated sound, and place a third plate on the table between us, a plate of scrambled eggs or pancakes, always cooked perfectly, always destined to grow cold. We would eat our breakfast in silence, the only sounds the scrape of spoons against ceramic and the rustle of my father's paper. The third plate sat there, a testament to our collective delusion, a steaming, fragrant accusation. She would sit in her chair, her hands clasped in her lap, watching us eat, a hopeful, desperate look on her face. Sometimes she would try to start a conversation. "It looks like it might rain today," she'd offer, her voice wavering slightly. "You should take an umbrella to school." My father would just turn a page, the crinkle of the newsprint sharp and dismissive in the quiet room. I would take a large, noisy bite of my cereal, focusing on the crunch, on anything but the sound of her voice. After a while, she would just fall silent, the hope draining from her face, leaving behind that familiar, deep-seated sadness. Dinner was the same. She'd cook a full meal, something that smelled incredible, filling the house with the scent of roasted chicken or baking bread. She'd set 3 places at the table, complete with napkins and silverware. My father and I would sit, and she would serve us, placing food on our plates, her movements graceful and practiced. Then she would sit down, fill her own plate, and try to engage us. "How was your day at work?" she would ask my father. He would grunt, his attention fixed on cutting his meat into precise geometric shapes. "And school? Did you have that big test today?" she would ask me. I would mumble something non-committal, my eyes glued to my plate, shoveling food into my mouth to avoid having to speak. The charade was suffocating. It was a constant, exhausting performance. Every single day was a rehearsal and a live show of pretending this woman, my own mother, did not exist. I grew up in a house with 3 people, but I was raised in a world that only acknowledged 2. For years, I just accepted it. Kids accept the most bizarre circumstances as normal because it's all they've ever known. The sun rises, the sky is blue, and we don't talk to mom. It was just a fact of life. I learned to tune her out, to blur her form at the edges of my vision. She became a piece of the background, like a painting on the wall you no longer notice. But as I got older, Moving into my late teens and then my early 20s, the acceptance began to curdle into something else. First it was confusion, then a deep gnawing guilt. I started to really look at her. I saw the fine lines of sorrow etched around her eyes. I saw the way her shoulders slumped when we ignored her. The way she would sometimes touch the back of my father's chair as she passed. A longing for contact that was never returned. I saw a woman who was profoundly, devastatingly lonely, trapped in her own home. My perception of my father shifted too. The silent, stoic man I had once seen as a protector started to look like a tyrant. His rule was strange, cruel. It was a calculated, daily act of emotional violence. What had she done to deserve this? Had she had an affair? Had she done something unforgivable that I was too young to remember? Whatever it was, this punishment seemed monstrously out of proportion. It was a cold, quiet form of torture, and he had made me his accomplice. The resentment built slowly, a pressure behind my ribs. I started having trouble sleeping. I'd lie in bed and hear the faint sounds of her weeping from their bedroom. It was a soft, muffled sound, the kind of crying you do when you're trying not to wake anyone, and it broke my heart. How could my father lie beside her every night, hear that, and do nothing? What kind of man was he? I began to see his actions as a grotesque form of misogyny, an exertion of absolute control. He had erased her. He had stripped her of her voice, her presence, her very existence within the family she had built. And I had helped him. Every silent breakfast, every ignored question, I was tightening the screws. The breaking point came last Tuesday. It was a miserable, rainy day, the kind that makes the whole world feel gray and damp. I was in the living room, trying to read, but the words just swam on the page. She came in and stood by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. She wasn't trying to talk to me. She was just standing there, looking out at the world she was a part of, but couldn't seem to touch. She started humming, a simple, sad little lullaby. It was a melody that felt vaguely familiar, like a half-remembered dream. I felt a lump form in my throat. I watched her reflection in the dark window pane, a translucent figure against the storm-tossed trees outside. Her shoulders were shaking, almost imperceptibly. She was crying again, silently. Something inside me snapped. Years of pent-up guilt, of quiet rebellion, of love for this woman I wasn't allowed to know. All of it came rushing to the surface. It was wrong. This whole thing, this whole life, was fundamentally, grotesquely wrong. I couldn't be a part of it anymore. I waited until I heard my father's car pull out of the driveway for his weekly trip to the hardware store. It was a ritual for him. Every Tuesday evening, a couple of hours to himself. The house fell into a new kind of silence, one that wasn't enforced, but was simply empty. Except it wasn't empty. She was still there. I found her in the kitchen, washing the dinner dishes, her back to me. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard, I felt like she must be able to hear it. My mouth was dry. It felt like I was about to break a law of physics, like the universe itself might fracture if I spoke. I took a deep breath. The word felt alien in my mouth, heavy and clumsy. She froze. Her hands, submerged in the soapy water, went completely still. The silence that followed was more profound than any I had ever experienced in that house. It stretched for what felt like an eternity. Slowly, she turned around. Her face was a mask of disbelief. Her eyes, wide and glistening with tears, were locked on mine. She looked at me as if she were seeing a miracle. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She just stared, her expression shifting from shock to a dawning, radiant joy that was so pure it was painful to watch. You can see me," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. A single tear traced a path down her cheek. "Oh, my sweet boy, you can finally see me." Her words confused me. They landed strangely, not quite fitting the situation. I took a step closer. "What are you talking about?" I said, my own voice unsteady. "I see you every day." Her brow furrowed in confusion, but the smile didn't leave her face. It was as if she couldn't bear to let it go. "But you never looked at me. You never spoke." "Dad," I said, the word tasting like poison. "It was him. He told me not to. It was his rule. I was a kid. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. But I'm not a kid anymore. And it's wrong. What he's doing to you is wrong." Understanding washed over her face, followed by a shadow of that old sadness. She reached out and took my hand. Her skin was cold, surprisingly so, like marble that had been left in a cellar. But her grip was firm, real. "Your father," she began, her voice trailing off. She shook her head. "He's had a hard time. He does what he thinks is best. But it's okay now. It's okay. This can be our secret, can't it? Just between us." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. The relief that flooded me was immense. Like I'd been holding my breath my entire life, and had finally been allowed to exhale. We stood there for a long time, just holding hands in the quiet kitchen. She told me how much she loved me, how she had watched me grow up, proud of the man I was becoming. She asked me about school, about my friends, about my life. It was a torrent of questions, years of unspoken love and curiosity pouring out of her. We talked until we heard the sound of my father's car on the gravel driveway. A sudden panic seized us. She squeezed my hand one last time, a conspiratorial smile on her face. "Our secret," she whispered, and then she turned back to the sink, resuming her washing as if nothing had happened. I bolted from the kitchen, my heart racing, and made it to my room just as the front door opened. The rest of the evening passed in the usual suffocating silence, but this time it felt different. When she looked at me across the dinner table, there was a new light in her eyes, a shared knowledge. It was the first time in my life I felt like I had an ally in that house. We continued our secret conversations for the next few days. Whenever my father was out, we would talk. I learned about her favorite books, the music she loved, the places she dreamed of traveling. She was vibrant and intelligent and funny. She was a whole person, a person my father had tried to bury. And with every word we shared, I felt like I was helping her claw her way out of the grave he'd dug for her. My anger at him grew with every passing day. He was a monster, a quiet, methodical monster who had stolen my mother from me. I started to think about what to do. Should I confront him? Should I just take her and leave? I felt a fierce, protective instinct I'd never known before. I would not let him hurt her anymore. Then came yesterday morning. I woke up and the house was silent. Too silent. There was no smell of coffee brewing, no sound of my father's radio murmuring the morning news from the kitchen. I lay in bed for a while, waiting, but the silence stretched, becoming unnatural, unnerving. I finally got up and went downstairs. The kitchen was empty. The coffee pot was cold. The newspaper was still on the front porch. A prickle of unease ran down my spine. I checked the whole ground floor. No one. I went upstairs and knocked on their bedroom door. No answer. I pushed it open. The room was empty. The bed was neatly made. My father's side of the closet was open, his clothes hanging in their usual, meticulous rows. Her side was the same. Nothing seemed out of place, yet the absence of them was a screaming void. Panic started to set in. I checked the garage. His car was gone. My first thought was that he'd left early for work, but he never did that without telling me. And where was she? Did he take her somewhere? The thought sent a jolt of fear through me. Had he found out about our secret? I spent the whole day in a state of escalating anxiety. I called my father's cell phone a dozen times. It went straight to voicemail every time. I called his office. His secretary said he hadn't shown up, which had never happened before. I didn't know who to call about her. She didn't have a cell phone. She didn't have any friends that I knew of. Her entire world was contained within the walls of our house. By evening, I was frantic. I paced the empty rooms, the silence of the house pressing in on me. Had he hurt her? Had he taken her away to punish her? To punish me? The darkest possibilities began to spiral in my mind. I had to do something. I had to find a clue. Anything that could tell me where they went. My search led me back to their bedroom. It felt like a violation to be in there, to go through their things. I looked through drawers, under the bed, in the closet. Nothing. It was just a room, unnaturally tidy and impersonal. Then I saw it. On the floor of my father's closet, tucked behind a row of shoes, was a small wooden chest. I'd never seen it before. It was unlocked. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside were journals, a stack of them, all identical black, leather-bound notebooks, the kind my father used for work. I pulled out the one on top. His neat, precise handwriting filled the page. The first entry was dated over 15 years ago. I sat on the edge of their bed, the scent of his cologne still faint on the pillows, and I began to read. October 12th. It's been a year since the accident. The house feels so empty, a hollowed-out shell. I look at my son, and I see her eyes, and the pain is so fresh, it's like it happened yesterday. He's only 3. Too young to understand. He just asks for Mama. How do I explain to a 3-year-old that she's never coming back? The police report called it a freak accident. A downed power line in the storm. Wrong place, wrong time. It doesn't feel like a freak accident. It feels like a theft. The world has stolen her from us. My blood ran cold. I read the entry again, and then a third time. An accident? She died? No. It was impossible. I had just spoken to her yesterday. I had held her hand. It was a mistake. A different journal. Something. But it was his handwriting. His room. I kept reading, a sense of dread coiling in my stomach. May 3rd, 2 years later. He did it again today. He was playing in the living room with his blocks, and he just stopped and pointed towards the kitchen. He said, "Mama is making cookies." I went in, of course. The kitchen was empty. I told him Mama was in heaven, like we've practiced. He just shook his head. "No, she's right there," he said. He described the yellow dress she was buried in. I felt a coldness spread through me that had nothing to do with the temperature in the room. He's 5. His imagination is running wild. That's all it is. May 28th. It's not his imagination. He talks to her every day now. I've started to see glimpses, a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye when he says she's walking past. A faint scent of her perfume in a room she supposedly just left. This morning, I was in the hall, and he was in his room, chattering away. I asked who he was talking to. "Mama," he said, "she's singing me a song." And then I heard it, faintly, through the door. A lullaby, the one she used to sing to him. I almost threw up. June 15th. I confronted it today. My son was sitting on the sofa, talking to the empty space next to him. I stood in the doorway, and I said her name. I asked her what she wanted. My son looked at me, his eyes wide with fear, and the air in the room grew heavy, cold. A pressure built against my eardrums. I felt a sense of malevolence, of pure hatred directed at me. It looked like her. It sounded like her. But when I forced myself to look at the spot my son was staring at, I saw it. Just for a second. The shape of her was there, but the eyes were black pits, empty and ancient and wrong. This thing is not my wife. My wife is gone. This is something else, a parasite, wearing her memory. My breath hitched in my chest, I felt a wave of nausea. This was insane. He was insane. He was grieving. He had gone mad. That had to be it. I gripped the journal tighter, my knuckles white. July 1st. I've tried everything. Priests, mediums, paranormal investigators. They either think I'm crazy, or they leave the house pale and shaken, telling me they can't help me. One of them told me it's a mimic, a shade. He said it's drawn to the grief, to my son's energy, and it seems it will never leave us. Even if we left this place, it will just follow us. He said the worst thing we can do is give it what it wants. Acknowledgement. Attention is sustenance. Recognition is power. If we feed it, it will grow stronger. It will latch onto him. It will consume him. So I have a plan. It's a terrible, cruel plan. It will make my son hate me. It will make me a monster in his eyes. But it's the only way I can think of to protect him. We have to starve it. We have to pretend it isn't there. We have to cut off its food supply. We will not look at it. We will not speak to it. We will not acknowledge its existence. We will live in a house with a ghost and pretend we are alone. May God forgive me for what I am about to do to my own child. The journal fell from my hands, landing with a soft thud on the carpet. The room was spinning. Every memory of my childhood, every silent dinner, every sharp glance from my father, it all rearranged itself in my mind into a new and terrifying picture. I scrambled for the last journal, the one from this year. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely turn the pages. I found an entry from last week. Tuesday. He spoke to it tonight. I've seen the way he's been looking at it lately, the guilt in his eyes. He thinks I'm the villain. I suppose I am. I would rather he hate me and be safe, and love me and be lost. But now he's broken the rule. He's opened the door. When I came home, the air in the house was different, thicker, charged. And it looked stronger, more solid. The sadness in its eyes has been replaced by something else. Triumph. I have to end this. The old man, the one who called it a mimic, he gave me a final option, a last resort. He said if it ever got a true foothold, if it ever fed enough to become fully anchored here, there was a ritual, a way to bind it. But it requires a sacrifice, a trade, an anchor for an anchor. He told me it would probably kill me. But what life have I been living anyway? A jailer in my own home, hated by my own son. If this is the price to set him free, I will pay it. He's talking to it again, whispering in the kitchen. I love you, my son. I hope one day you'll understand. I hope you'll forgive me. That was the last entry. So his disappearance and the car being gone. He went to perform the ritual, to sacrifice himself, to save me from the thing he said it took my mother for. My blood turned to ice water. I thought of her hand in mine, how cold her skin was. I thought of her words, "You can finally see me," as if my sight was something to be earned. I thought of her triumphant eyes across the dinner table. And then I heard it, a soft, sweet sound from the bottom of the stairs, humming, that strange little tune she was humming by the window. A floorboard creaked in the hall downstairs, then another. I scrambled off the bed, my body acting on pure instinct, and threw the lock on the bedroom door. The click sounded deafeningly loud in the silence. I backed away from the door, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. My eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape that wasn't there. The window was 2 stories up. Her footsteps were on the stairs now, slow, deliberate, not the light, almost soundless way she used to move. These steps had weight, they had substance. She was stronger now. I had made her stronger. The humming stopped right outside the door. Sweetheart? Her voice. It was my mother's voice, but it was different. It was coated in a thick, cloying sweetness that made my skin crawl. Are you in there? I was so worried. I woke up and the house was empty. I pressed myself against the far wall, my hand over my mouth, to stifle my own ragged breathing. "I talked to your father," she called through the door. The sound was so clear, it was like she was standing right next to me. "He called. He's so sorry, honey, for everything. He explained it all. He knows he was wrong to keep us apart." My mind screamed, "Liar, liar. He's gone. You know he's gone." "He said he just needs a few days to clear his head," the sweet voice continued. "But he gave us his blessing. He wants us to finally have time together. Just you and me. Isn't that wonderful?" Silence. I held my breath, praying she would think I wasn't here, that she would just go away. "I know you're in there, honey. I can feel you," she cooed. "Come on, open the door. I'm going to make you some pancakes, just like I used to." She never used to make me pancakes. "Please, son, don't shut me out again. Not after you finally let me in. It's all going to be okay now. I'm here. I'll take care of you. We'll be a proper family." The words hung in the air, thick and venomous. A silence followed, stretching for a few agonizing heartbeats. Then a new sound, a soft, metallic scrape. The doorknob began to jiggle, slowly at first, then with more force. Click, rattle, click. My breath caught in my throat. It was trying to get in. It was physically trying to reach me. I backed away until my shoulders hit the cold wall, my eyes wide and fixed on the trembling brass knob. The wood around the lock groaned under the pressure. My phone was in my pocket. The weight of it was a sudden, desperate comfort. My hands were slick with sweat as I fumbled to pull it out. My thumb hovered over the emergency call button. What could I possibly say? There's a woman in my house who looks and sounds like my mother. But my dad's journals say she died 15 years ago. And this thing is a mimic that feeds on attention. They would send an ambulance with a straitjacket, not a squad car with armed officers. The rattling stopped. For a moment, there was nothing. A profound, terrifying quiet. And then a new sound began. A soft, rhythmic scratching on the other side of the door, like long fingernails dragging slowly, deliberately, down the grain of the wood. Scrape, scrape, over and over. A sound that was patient and possessive. That was it. I didn't care how crazy I sounded. I stabbed the call button. A calm voice answered, 911. What's your emergency? I cupped my hand over the phone speaker, my own voice a choked, ragged whisper. There's an intruder in my house. I'm locked in my bedroom, upstairs. Can you describe them, sir? The dispatcher asked, her voice perfectly level. The scratching continued, a counterpoint to her professional calm. I can't. I haven't seen them. I just hear them. They're right outside my door. Please, you have to hurry. There was a fractional pause on the other end. A unit is on its way, sir. Can you stay on the line with me? No, I whispered, my eyes locked on the door. I can't make any noise. I ended the call before she could protest. The scratching stopped, the instant the call disconnected, as if it heard, as if it knew. The silence that rushed back in was somehow heavier, more menacing than before. It's waiting. It knows I've called for help. It knows its time might be limited. Or maybe it's just enjoying this. I'm trapped in this room. I've called the police, and I don't know if they can even do anything. I don't know what they'll find when they arrive. What if it's just gone when they get here? They'll find my dad's journals, they'll see the state I'm in, and they'll think I'm the one who's broken. But all I can do is wait for them. I'm writing this down, getting it all out as fast as I can on my phone. I need someone to know the truth. I need you to know what really happened, in case they don't believe me. In case something bad happens to me before they get here.